You know, when Black Lives happened, a lot of Latinos were there supporting Black people. We were protesting with you guys, we were sharing information, and you know what happened? White people started saying all lives matter because they didn't see what was going on. They weren't seeing the bigger picture. And just because, yes, Black people have dealt with this, does not mean that it takes away from what's happening right now. Two things can be true at the same time. I don't really understand why some Black Americans are like above all of this and then trying to make it about yourself when this is not about you right now. It's been about you this whole time, but right now it's not about you. And this shouldn't even be a problem between us. We should be working together, not fighting against each other like some of you are in these comments. Right now it's Latinos getting taken. Next thing is going to be Asians. They've already started deporting Asian people. It is not going to stop. And it's not going to stop, especially with this current president. Like I said, we should be working together, not against each other. We have a common enemy.
The last few days, there has been this conversation online in where some Latinos are upset that there are some Black folk that are not going out to protest. I'm going to hold your hand while I say this, and I ask you to please keep an open mind. If you're Latino and you're upset that you believe that there aren't Black people out there protesting in support of the Latino and undocumented community, you need to shut up because you're wrong and you're pretty much biased. Because the reality is that, yes, there are some Black people out there protesting together with Latinos. So I don't know why you're so focused on some people online saying that they're not going to go out there. When in reality, you got to remember that it was a majority of members of our own community that voted to elect the fool that's in presidency right now. And that the majority of Black folk were against the current president right now. And that was reflected in the election polls. So instead of believing this narrative that seems to be existing online, go out there in the street and you'll see that there are Black people protesting with Latinos. So either you need probably more Black friends or to be around more Black people to realize that yes, they are out there and that there are current Black folk showing their support. You need to understand that Latinos are not a monolith, Black folk are not a monolith, and putting this expectation on another group when members of our own group are the ops. Understand that a lot of the movements we see today, Black folk organizing, have been the template for that. And do not ever forget that the 14th Amendment that gives us, the children of immigrants, the right to be U.S. citizens by being born here on U.S. soil is thanks to Black people who have advocated, who have protested to be treated like U.S. citizens in a country that did not see them as such during its foundation.
If you're watching this video right now and you're Black, I want you to take a moment and watch this video all the way through. Anyone else, you can watch as well, but specifically this is for my Black community. As a Latino, as someone who is under DACA, as someone who, as you know, we're going through it right now, I want you to understand, and I even want other Latinos to understand, that they're going to have us think that the issues that the Black community deals with and the issues that the Latino community deals with, or Indian or Asian or women or whoever minority group, they're going to have us believe that these issues are different and that Black people should only care about things that directly impact Black people. Latinos should only focus on things that directly impact Latinos, and so forth. And yeah, of course, I'm going to prioritize me, my family, and my people, and that's what I'm going to pay attention to. But do you understand that that way of thinking divides us? It puts us in a position where a small number of Latinos, and we're not small, but a smaller number of people can put pressure on our government, on those people who are not representing, misrepresenting us and taking advantage of us. They're making us weaker in order to be able to put pressure on them. Same way as when the Black community has to deal with a load of crap, because only Black people, for the most part, are worried about those issues, the numbers just divide us up. Do you know what would happen if we had the Black community rocking with us, protesting with us the way that we saw in LA yesterday? Can you imagine what those numbers would be? Can you imagine what would happen if Latinos came together and were out there protesting with the Black community when it comes to those Black issues? What we have to understand is that when one group of us is oppressed, that harms all of us. All of us. And by dividing up ourselves, the issues we pay attention to, into these little buckets, they make it to where our numbers are not as strong as if we were all united. So I think it's important to say, because the Latino issues that you're seeing right now, all of this crap that you're hearing, it's not a Latino issue, and you don't have to worry about it as a black person. It's going to affect you too. The same tactics they're using on us, they're going to use on you. And the same ones they're using on you, they're going to use on us. So what would happen if, instead of saying, oh, that's not my problem, or no, women problems are women's problems, it's not me as a man, if we all came together and said, there is one group of people at the top, and they are systematically trying to tear us apart, trying to take away our power, trying to take away our rights and give themselves more power, more money, whatever it is. If we just all focused on the problem and attacked the problem together, if we addressed them, if we went if we got engaged in our politics, if we protested peacefully, if we did what we had to do to apply pressure to the government together, to those who try and oppress us together, do you know the amazing things we could do? So my question is, how do we come together and how do we support one another? How do we get our numbers up so high to the point where we can't be ignored anymore? I think that we have to come together and we have to show each other support, because it's going to raise all ships. It's going to make us all be so much better off. But we have to work together. And I know, maybe same as Latinos, the black community has a hard time organizing themselves as well, but it's in our best interest to come together and support one another, because these issues affect all of us. And when one group of people gets justice, it's easier for the other group and the other group and the other group. So let's stop dividing ourselves and let's unite and let's see how we can support each other, because that's the only way we're going to rise up.
You know that as humans, we are beings of character, right? We are beings with which we have a certain behavior, and we always tend to repeat the behavior, even when it is beneficial or not beneficial to us. So that's why we have to understand that human beings are beings of character, right? So I'm saying this because we've always had tensions, we've had problems, we've had fights, you know, between the Latinos and the black people. And if I told you that it is the nature of human being, the nature of character that is causing us to have these fights, would you believe me so? If I said being a nature of character is what is making us fight? Because inside us we have self-doubt, we have self-importance, we have many things which are vices to us, right? And so the tension that exists between the black people and the Latinas is likened to it's like a kind of racism, right? It's a kind of class struggle. You see, a hierarchy that was created by the colonizer. The colonizer not only of our people, but the colonizer of minds, right? We understand that the marginalized communities in the USA include the blacks, the Latinas, and the Hispanics. But these people who are marginalized don't have any peace at all, right? Right now, the other day, Latinos were protesting in LA. They were calling for black people to come together. Some black people never showed interest, some showed interest, but what would cause us not to show interest? It is because when we look at our history, we really don't have a good history with those particular individuals. And that is what causes us to act in this way and manner, right? So I'm looking back right now, and I am thinking that the situation between the Latinas and the black people has to be solved, right? We have to find a solution to it and get something that unites us. Let's focus on something that unites us more than the thing that separates us. And now there's a white individual who tries to explain the condition of black people and white people in the USA, and why he thinks that the tension between Latinas and blacks is more than what is seen. It's more deeper than we think. Now let's listen to these individuals. I shall get back by the end of the video, where of course we shall have a deeper critical analysis. Let's dive in.
Let's talk about Black and Latino relationships. Heavy, right? I'm Colombian American. I was born in South America. I was raised in a working class town in New Jersey. Growing up, all of my friends were Black. I actually didn't really have that many Latino friends when I was a kid. Most of my friends were Black. And really, I think that shaped my perspective differently than a lot of Latinos in the US. And I want to make something very clear, and I want to talk about something that I think a lot of Latinos like to ignore. First off, a lot of us have Black roots. In Colombia, in South America, about 20% of the population is Black, Afro-Colombian. My father's family has Black family. I have some Black heritage. Clearly, I would never go around saying I'm like African American, but I just want to say many of us share Black ancestry, and we grew up in households that bear the stain of colonialism. Essentially, we were forced upon us these views by the Spanish, by the Portuguese, even by the US, because the US government kind of went into a lot of our homelands and kind of pushed their own agenda. And we were pushed to understand or to think or to believe that the darker we were, the more inferior we are. You see this a lot in South Asian communities. Indian communities, I see do this a lot. And I'll be very honest with you, I don't want to kind of start a controversy here, but I do often see a little bit of racism from South Asian communities directed at people like us, Latinos, and definitely at African Americans. East Asian communities, this is a problem there too. Maybe we'll talk about this in the future. Like I said, this channel is for uncomfortable conversations, and I want you guys to have them in the comments. I want you to discuss this stuff. So let's talk a little bit about Black Americans and Latinos, right? So this is the part that infuriates me the most. Black Americans have historically pushed a lot of the civil rights and liberties that we have in this country, in the United States. The civil rights movement was led predominantly by Black people. Many of the rights and the privileges that we have. If you're a Russian American and you're going around talking about how much you love Putin or whatever, you won that right. Well, you didn't win it, but you have that right because people decades ago fought for the right for you to express yourself, for you to be free and have freedom of speech. And I think this is something that a lot of Latinos don't understand. I think this is also a divide between Latinos who haven't really been in the U.S. that long and Latinos like myself who were either born or raised in the U.S. since children. I have noticed a culture amongst some Colombian Americans that I interact with who have only been living in the U.S. like 5-10 years, and all of a sudden they become political experts on the U.S. They're like in their 30s or their 20s. They didn't grow up here. They weren't teenagers here. They may not have even gone to school here. And yes, I want to shout out Aaliyah, my first crush as a child. And so sometimes you have discussions with them and you'll ask them like, oh, you think this is okay? Like what the government is doing, limiting the free speech of students, etc. And they'll be like, yeah, every country has the right to like determine who they let into their country and what they can do. Well, yeah, I mean, if you're a threat to the country, you should not be let in. But freedom of speech, that's like a foundational bedrock of our liberal democracy, which is what we have always been for, at least for the past decades after World War II. And I feel like a lot of these recent immigrants don't know that. I think they come from their countries with kind of backwards views on liberties, on what you can say, what you should say. Some of them think that because in their home countries, the government can kind of come and tell you what to say, then that's okay to do that here in the U.S. And I want to be very clear about something. America has never been okay with telling people what to do and what to say. You can take this back a couple of decades. You can take it back to Ulysses, a novel published by James Joyce, which was like very controversial and made its way through the courts. And guess what's one of the most important novels of the 20th century, which would be Ulysses by James Joyce. You also take this back to novels like Tropic of Cancer, which was heavily censored and banned in many places in the U.S. And eventually it became part of kind of our cultural experience. Henry Miller's Tropic of Cancer. One of my favorite books, by the way, I heavily recommend it. But we have historically moved towards supporting civil rights, supporting speaking for yourself, and Black Americans have been a huge part of this. I'm willing to say that if it weren't for Black Americans, America would be a little bit more totalitarian than it was a couple of months ago. And interestingly enough, when you talk about this and you tell people, well, America hasn't always been a free country, right? In the civil rights movement, dogs were sick on black protesters. People were murdered under kind of state-sanctioned, dangerous views. And a lot of this happened because Black Americans were fighting for their rights, and they were treated horrendously by not just the U.S. government, but local governments, people in the communities that just were so ignorant and stupid that they didn't understand that, we're all human beings. And a lot of Latinos have benefited from this. Even Latinos that arrived here 5-10 years ago. But the problem is they don't know they've benefited from this. They don't know that the reason they can play salsa out in the street without having someone call the police on them, or successfully call the police on them to shut it down, is because Black Americans made it possible so that integration, civil rights, acceptance of different races was something that we championed as a society, up until recently, of course. And I think a lot of my Latino brethren need to kind of get it together and start studying what this country was founded on. You can't arrive in a country, you can't come here as a new immigrant and bring with you oppressive, totalitarian beliefs and think that now you can enforce them because there's a candidate that you like that does that. Like, you need to read up on John F. Kennedy. You need to read on FDR. You need to read on James Baldwin. You need to read about Malcolm X. You need to read about so many, W.E. Du Bois. You need to read about the people who fought for our rights and how hard it was for us to maintain those rights. And if you really want to be an American, if you want to come to this country and you want to say, I'm an American and I'm proud, whether you're Cuban Republican or Colombian Republican or whatever, well, you need to learn the history of this country, right? Because you came here, you chose to come to this country to live a new life, to fight for a better life for your family. So how dare you try to take that away from other people? And how dare you insult and treat Black Americans as if they were inferior to you? They're not. No one is. Everyone is deemed equal under the eyes of God. And you seem to have come here and you brought with you these beliefs, and all they do is just cause and sow hatred and seeds of evil in this society. It's a big beef that I have. I just want to say that if Black and Latino people come together, if we understand that we are in the same game, fighting the same struggle, looking for the same opportunities for our families and our children and our parents, we are a powerful force to be reckoned with. But until we realize how powerful we can be when we work together, we will remain, in many ways, unfortunately, divided. And that power will be divided. And guess who benefits from that? It ain't you, brother. It ain't me. It ain't you out there working in a factory or in construction thinking that Donald Trump is going to save you from whatever the hell you thought you needed saving from. It's Jeff Bezos. It's Musk. It's this creepy little dweeb Zuckerberg that wants to be a man, that thinks that because he has a little gold chain and grew out his little hair and has a little t-shirt that somehow he's a manly man. Yeah, okay, you can take as many Thai bowl classes as you want, Mark Zuckerberg. You're not a man. You're part of an oppressive system that hurts people and causes damages to Western democracies and developing nations who are influenced by these ignorant beliefs found amongst these totalitarian states. That's it for me now. I'm trying to upload more people. I promise I'll talk about sports. I will. I have about 300 followers. I got another page that has about 200,000 followers, but that's a business page dedicated to something completely outside of the realm of politics, culture, sports, and society. I hope you stick around. Please, please follow my podcast. And you can also go to realdiegoarias.com. I repeat it, realdiegoarias.com. And you can read some of my essays, some of my fiction, some of my nonfiction, and some of my rambles. And I'm willing to hear you out. Any conservatives out there, any Latinos out there that think I'm wrong, please leave your comments. I believe in free speech. Free speech means that I should and read things that I don't agree with. It's all about having an open conversation. That's the whole point to a modern society. Have a lovely day, everybody. I love you. Take care. Bye.
I think the hardest part about all of this is that middle-aged, I didn't think I could get fooled again by politicians, not after W. which I voted for.
Sure you did. We're not surprised.
I voted for peace and independent parties.
No, you didn't.
Every election since then.
No, you didn't.
And I'm still processing the fact that I've part of the demographic that ushered this into power.
Yeah, thanks. Congratulations.
Now we're sending our kids to die in war again. Over nukes.
Yeah.
Not weapons of mass destruction. That was never going to work. It's full-blown, maybe potentially nukes this time.
Yeah.
Right? Myself.
Yeah, you should. Oh, you silly biatch. You knew exactly what you were voting for. And you don't sound like the typical podunk, lack of education MAGA type that we see. And you just admitted that you keep up with politics. And he literally has been saying what he was going to do for years. And you know about Project 2025. You voted with your racism and your hate. And now you're in that finding out phase, literally because you're worried about the kids around you that might be shipping out soon, or some of those that might be coming to your hometown. But guess what? There's many of us that we're not forgiving and forgetting you assholes, okay? So welcome to the fascism that you helped create. And you know that last part that you said? We feel the same way. We hate you assholes too, all right? But the rest of you, y'all have a good day now, okay?
Seeing so many more videos of people saying that they regret their vote for Donald Trump, while that's great, I really need to know, why did you vote for him in the first place? It was an open book test. The book was literally on fire. What made you say, like, yep, this is my guy? Was it the bankrupted casinos? The fraud university that he ran? Was it because he was found liable for SA-ing E. Jean Carroll? Or was it because he's a convicted felon with 34 charges? Oh wait, I know, it's because everybody else was lying but him. He's the only one that tells you the truth. Listen to how that sounds. It wasn't only just liberals who were trying to warn you, there were people from his own cabinet. General Mattis said that Trump is the first president that did not try to unite the country. John Kelly, his own chief of staff, said he is the most flawed person he has ever met. Bolton said he is unfit for office. Barr, his own former attorney general, said that he is detached from reality. Liz Cheney called him a threat to democracy. Not only that, her father, Dick Cheney, Mr. War Criminal Halliburton himself, said that there has never been a greater threat to the Republic than Donald J. Trump. You still voted for him. Why? Over a qualified woman who had a weird laugh, who they said slept her way to the top without zero proof, things without proof, but with the proof that Donald Trump is a racist, homophobic, transphobic rapist with ties to Epstein, who's never passed any real legislation, who still doesn't have a health care plan, and always plays the victim. That's who you voted for? Now he's literally trying to get us into World War III. Out of the Iran nuclear deal in 2018, not because it was a bad deal, but because Obama did it. Sitting on his Temu Twitter, live posting about bombings like it's some sort of reality show. That's not foreign policy. No wonder his fake university was sued. He treats everything like a scam, even war. What about his first term, since you all who voted for him think he did something so great? The low gas prices during COVID that got you all warm and fuzzy? You mean when the world shut down, nobody was driving and demand tanked? That's not academic genius, that's a global crisis. Prices rising under Biden should surprise nobody. It was a direct result of Donald Trump gutting reserves and mishandling the pandemic. Trump blames everybody else for the mess that he's created. It's like lighting a match and setting your neighbor's house on fire and then blaming them for not having a fire extinguisher. You weren't lied to, you weren't tricked, you chose him over facts, you chose him over country, you chose him over character, you chose him over your neighbors, and now we are all here paying for it.
The Latinos and the black people and the Hispanics, the Indians, the Chinese, think of all those marginalized communities. These groups are both victims of systemic racism, economic inequality, and political neglect. Their relationship is marked by moments of solidarity and conflict. You see, we have a lot to share between us. We have struggles, we have inequality, economic inequality, or we have political neglect, right? Our voices really don't count where it should and must count, right? So I'm thinking that all this nonsense, all this talking is just bluffing, and it's all just nonsense, right? So African Americans and Latinas have long faced oppression in the US, but their historical experiences differ significantly. African Americans were brought forcibly through slavery and subjected to centuries of racial discrimination. You see, the black people fought through Jim Crow laws and civil rights movements. Their identity in America has been shaped by a struggle of dignity and civil rights on US soil. On the other hand, many Latinas and Hispanics, their population including Mexican Americans, Puerto Ricans, Cubans, and Central Americans, have roots in colonization, migration, and fluctuating geopolitical relationship with the US. While some were abandoned in the US through territorial conquest, for example, we have the Mexicans after the Mexican-American War, others arrived as immigrants seeking opportunity or refuge. You see, black people in America were not colonized. They were enslaved. But the Latinas were colonized. And we understand that some Latinas found themselves through territorial expansion, but some of them brought themselves through immigration. But black people ain't immigrants. They can never be they shouldn't equate us. They shouldn't say you are immigrants as us, or rather you are immigrants, or rather we are more important than you, or black people are important than us. No, we are all equal. Yes. Now, one of the most significant sources of tension is the economic competition in the USA, particularly in the low-income urban areas. Black and Latino communities often live side by side, competing for the same jobs, housing, and public services. When resources are scarce, tensions rise. You see, there is always a parable or a proverb that says, when poverty kicks in, love lives through the window. When poverty kicks in, love lives through the window. And it's true. Money can mask a lot of tension and a lot of misunderstanding. But by the time you have money, a lot of people will always surround you. But when you lose that money, or when you pretend to have lost the money, which I think is the right way to test it, you'll see people won't be so much closer to you as you thought. And that's the law of human nature. So immigration is a flashpoint in this dynamic. Some African Americans have expressed concern that undocumented immigrants, predominantly Latinos, depress wages or take jobs in industries where black workers were historically present, such as construction or service work. While economists debate the validity of these claims, the perception of job competition fosters resentments. Moreover, in cities like Los Angeles, Chicago, and Houston, the prison system, street gang violence, and drug wars have fueled mistrust and rivalry between black and Latino youths, often driven by socio-economic despair more than the racial hatred. Many Latina communities are racially diverse, yet colorism and anti-blackness exist within them. We have legacies of European colonialism and white supremacy in Latin America. Afro-Latinas often find themselves marginalized not only with broader American society, but also with the Latino communities themselves. There have been reports of Latinas using anti-black slurs, harboring stereotypes or perpetuating biases in schools, neighborhoods, and workplaces. This cultural tension deepens the divide, making collaboration between the communities harder. African Americans may perceive Latinas as failing to acknowledge anti-blackness, racism, or not standing in solidarity during key moments of racial reckoning. Conversely, some Latinas feel that African Americans do not always recognize the racial struggles Latino communities face, particularly around immigration enforcement, police profiling, and border-related violence. You see, the point is still one. The point is still one. Even at the time I was writing this research, the point is still one. You see, people tend to be reminded of the hard times they had, the times they were eating lemon and salt, the times where they were eating stones and unripe fruits. That when you are eating pizza, it's hard for you to remember that time, particularly if you ate it with someone. Hard times bring more people together than the good times. I'm telling you. Now, what is the role of the media in perpetuating the divide? Because the media also has a part in this. Now, the media and the political system in the US often pity, or rather often pit, minority groups against one another. The narrative of the model minority historically applied to Asians, but also extended to certain Latinos, particularly the Cubans or lighter-skinned groups of the Latinos. This is used to imply that African Americans are to blame for their own hardship. This erodes intergroup solidarity. Politicians and peace policymakers have also weaponized these tensions. For example, right-wing figures have used fear of black crime to rally Latinos voters, or stoked fear of immigration to drive black supporters for conservative policies. Redistricting, voter suppression, and selective law enforcement often put these groups in opposition during election or in civic institution. You see, it is true that if you want to conquer well, you have to divide. Once you divide, you conquer well, right? But once we understand this policy, once we understand how the media perpetuates the divide by pointing that this particular group is always behaving this way, you don't need to elect this person because he comes from this community that behaves in a certain way. Vote for me instead. I don't come from that community. I'm okay here. You understand? That's wrong. That's totally, totally wrong. So there should be a shared moments of struggle and solidarity. That is what I believe should happen. You see, despite the tensions, there have been numerous examples of unity and mutual support. During the civil rights movements, groups like the United Farm Workers, led by Cesar Chavez, and the Black Panthers showed solidarity. In the 1992 Los Angeles uprising, while there was a racial friction, there were also shared protests against police brutality and systemic neglect. In more recent years, the rise of movements like Black Lives Matter and immigration, or rather immigrant rights protests, have rekindled the solidarity. We've also had figures like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a Latina congresswoman who have openly stood with black communities. Similarly, black activists with which they have voiced support for immigration justice and rights for the DACA recipients, right? So what would be the role? What would be the role for the unification is something also that I believe we should look into. Afro-Latinos often live at the intersection of both identities, facing racism from white America, exclusion from Latinas, and at times misunderstanding within African American spaces. Artists like Cardi B and Amara Le Negra have used their platforms to expose colorism and challenge cultural assumptions. Their presence forces both communities to confront their internalized biases and recognize shared struggles. Afro-Latinas could be crucial in healing the rift by embracing both identities. They create a bridge for deeper cultural understanding, solidarity, and joint action. Yes. So, to conclude, to put the matters into rest, you know, we can't talk forever. Now, the tension between blacks and Latinos communities in the US is not inevitable nor natural. It is the product of structural forces, historical trauma, and systemic manipulation. Yet, Beneath the surface of conflict lies the potential for powerful alliance. Both communities have suffered under the weight of white supremacy, economic exploitation, and state violence. Both have resisted. For real progress, both groups must engage in honest dialogue. They have to challenge internalized racism and recognize their common humanity. Solidarity, though difficult, is essential, not just for short-term wins, but for the transformation of America itself. As the country becomes more diverse and the line between communities continues to blur, building unity between black people and Latinos is not just strategic. It is necessary for the future of racial justice in the United States of America. We have to say thank you to such people, the brothers and the sisters who have shared their thoughts about the tensions that really happened between the Americans and the Latinos. I'm grateful that he's been able to speak what many might find it difficult to do so. Yeah. So thank you for watching, guys. This is EFK Original Documentaries. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, do this: subscribe, share, support me on Patreon. I'll surely appreciate, and see you in the next one.